So this Count Dracula or Vlad III can also be used on Cavalry. And that's exactly why this episode, together with the episode from yesterday, it's absolutely super necessary in order for us to evaluate exactly where does Vlad III fit in Age of Empires Mobile, because, yeah, it can be used on Pikemans, but it also can be used in Cavalry. So in other words, what you're gonna see in this episode, we're gonna be 20 PvP battle reports with which I'm gonna highlight the difference between Vlad and Timur. Hello beautiful people, Timmy is here with an absolutely amazing episode, which would not have been possible without the help of a special person. And in this case, that's Lisa from server 88. So thank you very much, sweetheart, for taking the time to help me with these battle reports. And it doesn't matter that Lisa has 100 million power and I am close right now to 200 million power, because there are ways in which I can set these tests to be as relevant as possible. So let's have a look at the configuration of both setups. As the setup which Lisa is using will always gonna be Cyrus, Ramkam in this case, and Mansa Musa. So right off the bat, you also see that my march size is 126,350 units. Here you see that I'm using the Ripper Tiger and Weak Spot skills on Lubu. I'm using the Temperate Steel and the Critical Insight on Timur, and I'm using Warrior's Hymn and Critical Insight on Attila. But you also probably have noticed that I will not be using gear, nor I will be using rings for both setups, while Lisa will gonna keep exactly the same setup for all 20 battle reports. Now when it comes down to Vlad, I'm using the following setup. And basically the only change is actually Vlad instead of Timur, as Lubu and Attila remains on the same position with the same skill. And when it comes down to Mr. Vlad, I have chosen to keep the Deadly Dragon Thorn and the Forceful Retaliation as the two skills. And again, here is to be seen that I will not use my gear, nor I will gonna use any rings, just like for the previous setup. So let's start with the setup which I was using on the Cavalry till now. Maybe this is a spoiler, who knows. Here again you see the entire setup, and you can also see for the entire march the skills. And what exactly are you seeing here? Well, you are seeing 10 battle attacks versus Cyrus, Ram and Mansa Musa from Lisa. You see the damage per second for each hero separately. And of course the most important column, which is the total damage per second. Here I have to mention, when you look at this setup, this does not mean that, for example, on position number 1, 1897 was the damage per second of Lubu, 65 was the damage per second of Timur, and 35 was the damage per second of Attila, because the values for each of these three heroes are actually sorted from, on the position 1, the worst damage per second value achieved by each hero separately, all the way down to the highest damage per second possible for each hero separately. And of course here we also have highlighted the average damage per second for Lubu separately, but within this setup, and that's 2195 damage per second. When it comes down to Timur, yes, we do not expect a high damage per second, so he has reached this value 71 points. And when it comes down to Attila, is the same thing, 45 points damage per second on average for Attila. And let's move now to the important numbers. And I'm gonna show you a beautiful graphic in just a moment. And here we see the worst performance possible of this entire setup is 2008 points damage per second. The absolute highest value this setup reached was 2875 points, which brings us to an average march performance of 2312 points. Good. Now let's have a look at Lubu, Count Dracula aka Vlad III, together with Attila. And here we are. And the information in here are displayed in exactly the same way as you just seen for the previous setup. You have the hero performance measured in damage per second for Lubu, for Vlad and for Attila. And of course these numbers are also sorted from the worst performance possible being on rank 1 all the way down to the best performance possible of each of these 3 heroes separately, though within this match. Now feel free at any point to take a screenshot if you choose to do so, and now let's focus on the total damage per second of the entire match. And the numbers here are also sorted from the worst match performance possible, which is 2533 points, all the way down to the best performance possible which this setup Lubu, Vlad and Attila has reached, which is 3218 points. And this brings us to a match performance overall of 2763 points, which is higher, but let me show you a beautiful graphic. So marked in red we have Vlad's setup, marked in blue is Timour's setup. We also have marked in red the average match performance of Vlad, and in blue we have Timour's average match performance also displayed in this graphic. And let's start actually here, because the results in Age of Empires Mobile are not 100% always the same values. It's rather an interval, and this graphic kind of also shows you this. As the worst performance possible you can reach with Vlad, for example, starts somewhere here, right under 2600 points damage per second for the entire match, while when it comes down to Timur, well, that starts close to 2000 damage per second overall match performance. And it's clear to be seen that this difference always remains all the way up to the craziest results possible, which are displayed here in red for Vlad, coming slightly over 3200 damage per second, while Timur reaches a value a bit higher than 2800 damage per second. And this brings us, beautiful people, of a difference between these two setups of 19.5%, which is absolutely crazy. What this section of the graphic actually displays here, it goes down directly to the average damage output for each setup. So again, red is Mr. Vlad, while blue is Mr. Timur. Now what I hope now is that you have not missed the video from yesterday in which I have highlighted the difference between Boudica and Vlad. But if we add these two videos together, not just only it's worth it to take Timur out and use Vlad in there, I will actually even recommend you this. So beautiful people, this was the video on Vlad versus Timur. Of course, now I'm super curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. And as always, please do not spare with criticism, because from my perspective, 97% of the criticism, it's actually helping me to improve and provide you guys even better content. And of course, if you would like to support this channel, you guys already know how to do that. There are simply two ways to do that. One is absolutely 100% free, and basically you don't have any excuse not to do that, which is to subscribe to this channel, share this channel with your friends, watch the videos till the end. And the other way to do so is, if you are planning to do any purchases, well, you are finding my link for Eneba in the video description and also in the video messages. And I would like to thank you guys in advance for this extra support. So yeah, beautiful people, now it's your turn. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Vlad in general? Because honestly, I have not expected such a high difference between these two heroes. And again, a massive shout out to Lisa from server 88. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'm gonna catch you in the next episode. Ciao, ciao, ciao.